welcome to the Watchpoint Post-Show live from the Blizzard Arena in Los Angeles. We did it! We are through the first week of the 2019 Overwatch League season. I'm your host, Malik Forte, joined at the desk by Zoe, Doa, and Monty. Guys, it was an amazing day, but what would you say was the best moment for you?
Every map number 5.
So 3 out of 4, yeah.
Yeah, it was...
3 out of 4. I thought we were going to get another one.
Yeah,
Thought we
I'm
were
a bit
too.
disappointed, but you know,
seemed
you can't have it
inevitable,
all.
you know?
What about you, Doa?
Oh, I mean, there was a whole lot of excitement. I mean, that's the thing. Is like, yeah, we had a really, really long day, but the games were all, for the most part, really, really good, really tight as well. So yeah, there's a lot to break down. Nothing really stands out in my mind as like the #1 moment, but you know, after 8 hours plus, it all kind of blends together a little bit anyway. It was a great day.
Monty?
I think we're all kind of delirious right now,
Little bit.
but that'll probably make it more fun for you guys. And
I have to say, I'm
with Doa. I think all these matches today were really entertaining, really fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I sort of just, time flew by, as it were.
It flew by, and then the games ended, and we were like, whoa, what happened?
It only felt like 7 hours.
Right.
I kind of feel like Frodo at the end of Return of the King was like, it's over.
You're right. You're right. And also, don't forget to pick up your Overwatch League All Access Pass so you can check out our live Q&A with Seoul Dynasty superstar Fleta live on Twitch right after Watchpoint. And speaking of Fleta, the Seoul Dynasty faced off against the Dallas Fuel in our final match of the day. Coming out of the half, it was Dallas as the Fuel went up 2-0. You know, OG and company, they were pretty much facing off against their old rivals. This was a rivalry matchup with pretty much new lineups, but it seemed like they returned to form, their old form. That whole theme of old played a lot of a part in this match today. They look like Team Envy out there pretty much.
Yeah, it was great to see them back to their form. And I mean, Seoul Dynasty, they didn't play bad either. It was a very close series. And Seoul, they had great CCs, they had good engagements. They just never managed to actually make it a kill in the end. They just couldn't kill anyone from Dallas.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing. I want to go back and watch this match again because I think there's a lot of subtle things to kind of break down out of it. But the big story, like you said, is that for some reason, as we hear Zenyatta fall to his doom, I love that sound. It was really puzzling for the amount of crowd control they were able to land between the EMPs, the grabs, the earth shatters, that they weren't able to come out with more teamfight wins. But you know, you mentioned it at the halftime. I think that's a real credit to Dallas Fuel playing a much better, tighter, more measured style today.
It's a combination, right? I do think Seoul failed to get the proper follow-up, obviously, or to have good target calling or pursuits at the end of some of these fights. But also it was Dallas identifying, hey, we've lost this, let's quickly disengage so we have more, we can get on the cart or the points again that much faster in the next fight.
Right. I would say a little bit uncharacteristic of a team with Fisher as their main tank. Typically, you see teams with Fisher playing as their main tank being pretty aggressive, but there was really not much follow-up a lot from this matchup. So that was really strange to me.
They looked really different than the Seoul Dynasty that we saw earlier this week that beat the LA Gladiators. Like a lot more passive. It was kind of strange.
I will say one thing. Michelle, I think, still put on some pretty good individual performances. He's still, in my mind, definitely a player to watch.
But why didn't they play Michelle more on Sombra then?
That was a really big question.
A lot of questions to be asked. We got to go back and watch that. But guys, it's time to name our player of the match, presented by Omen by HP. And that player is...
Right.
Congrats to AKM, our player of the match. He had some moments.
Well deserved.
Well deserved, I think. I think his Sombra was great. I think his Zarya was good. And you'll notice that in this match, they really decided, after sort of swapping AKM in effect in and out in their last match, they stuck with AKM for most of this series. And I think that his Zarya was also very good. His Widowmaker was clutch here, as you see that 3K to end on King's Row, but he just had a great day.
He really did. And he really held it down on that Sombra. He had 40 hacks in the end of, I think, the second round on Busan. And that was just absolutely madness. He hit so many people with every EMP throughout there.
Right. You're right about that. And you know what? I got to say, AKM, he's always, to me, been a momentum player, so it was good to see him actually get his time. He was able to get that momentum, and it definitely showed in his gameplay today, for sure. But guys, that was our player of the match, presented by Omen by HP. Now, the San Francisco Shock looked to keep their positive momentum going when they took on the LA Gladiators earlier today. And I gotta tell you, it was quite a match. That was one of our 5 mappers. Today was a day of going the distance as the battle for NorCal versus SoCal took us all the way to map 5, and the Gladiators were searching for their first win of the season against the high-octane roster of the San Francisco Shock. It wasn't easy, But I gotta say, shout out to Shore for it, because we did get some Reaper play in this, and that made me very happy.
You missed it though.
Made it work.
You missed it.
I went back and saw the highlight. That's all I did. I was talking to Joe McHale, my new BFF. Thank you very much.
I think you're going to see a lot more Reaper. I don't think you need to be too worried about missing a map or two here and there.
True talk. But what do you guys think about these highlights? You had lots of them.
I mean, there's a lot of great stuff to say about the Gladiators. Thing that, of course, stands out to me is Shaz, man. I mean, he had a lot more Discord damage than the Zenyatta on the other side. I mean, again, showing us that just perfectly, like, he's the Thanos Zenyatta, right? He's perfectly balanced. He's not too aggressive. He's not too defensive. You know, everything is just where
and he made half the tank line of the San Francisco
He really
disappear.
did.
So I agree.
Now, I think for the Gladiators, it really came down to their support line there. I think Shaz and Big Goose, they both stepped up big time. I don't think I've ever seen Big Goose having that good of a game, honestly.
Oh, yeah, he had a great day, yeah.
Noah, you're the MVP for making a Thanos reference up here at the desk.
You're welcome.
Let's go on to this last map. I thought that, you know, they could close out. I thought it was going to be a Los Angeles Gladiators closeout, but San Francisco, they just kept battling.
You know, there were some, like,
give it up.
there were crazy kill discrepancies in some of those maps, too. Like, Lunar Colony ended up being 51-29 in favor of the Gladiators, but then earlier in the day, you had this crazy, you know, spread where the Shock had way more than Gladiators do. So it was very swingy for, like, the first 3 maps.
I guess my major complaint about what the San Francisco Shock did, besides the fact that I think they're, first off, Choi Hyobin's Sombra was kind of underwhelming, is we're looking at Busan here. It's important to note that in that last fight, I believe the Shock had 6 ults to 1 on Gladiators and still managed to lose it due to some really sloppy play. Also, at times, I felt like Super and Sinatra were a bit too far forward, were getting picked off. So overall, I guess I was less impressed than what we saw with the San Francisco Shock earlier this week. I think these are all fixable mistakes, though.
Yeah, sure. For sure.
Yeah, it's all compiled at the same time.
Yeah, I think both teams should be pretty satisfied, though, with their first week. You know, coming out, shaking off the rust. Everybody got out here.
It's only week 1.
Right, it's only week 1. But, guys, we're going to take a quick break. But don't go anywhere, because coming up after the break, we're going to sit down and talk about some eating of Graviton Surges and why it's so important in this 3-3 meta. So stay tuned. This is Watchpoint, the post show.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. High ground or low ground, T-Mobile has you covered.
So usually when you're playing Widowmaker, what you're trying to do is have a whole lot of pressure, because the other team, if you have a Widowmaker, the other team has to focus really hard on the Widow. If the Widowmaker gets on a flank or they don't know where she is, if a 200 HP character peeks anywhere, they can die in a second. So you're putting a lot of pressure on the team to like focus you down, and then it gives your tanks and supports opportunity to get space. Widowmaker's like a super team reliant character. It's not like other games where the snipers kind of just go off on their own and one-shot everybody.
Most Widows want to wait until their team makes a distraction. The easiest shots for Widows to take are when nobody knows where she is, because people will move more predictably and won't be like strafing around a Widow's aim.
when taking Widow duels, like 1v1s, usually what you want to do is you want to have your team always looking for the Widowmaker. Because if you're going in, pushing into the map, and you have no clue where the Widowmaker is, she can be behind you, to your side, literally anywhere, and she can one-shot you if you don't know where she is.
상대 위도메이커 위치가 보일 때까지 계속 숨어 있는 거. 이제 상대가 내 위치를 알고 있는데도 그 자리에 계속 있는 거. 그게 위도메이커를 할 때 제일 하면 안 되는 실수예요.
제 위도가 다른 점은 이제 저는 이제 공격적인 성향이 아니라 수비적인 성향인데 상대방 위도를 1대1을 이제 많이 걸지 않으면서 약간 좀 신경 쓰게 하는 심리전을 좀 많이 하는 약간 그런 위도예요. 이제 카르페나 이제 파인 선수 같은 공격적인 성향을 가진 선수들은 포텐 터졌을 땐 이제 좀 멋있는 하이라이트 장면들이 많이 나오고 좀 여러 가지 장점이 있지만서도 이제 단점은 말리면 답이 없다는 거.
제 위도우랑 다른 위도우랑 차이점은 저는 좀 가까이 있는 히어로를 헤드샷을 쏘는 거를 이제 굉장히 즐겨하기 때문에 뭔가 그 점에서 다르다고 생각합니다. 그 플릭샷을 효율적으로 연습하는 방법은 역시 그냥 시간이 정답인 것 같아요. 오래 마우스를 흔들고 오래 쏘고 또 상황마다 어떻게 써야 될지 이제 생각도 해야 되고 근데 그런 것들은 모든 게 다 시간이기 때문에 시간과 연습, 노력
One of the best Widowmakers in the league last year was Philadelphia's Carpe, and he was at it again today. That Philadelphia versus Atlanta matchup was amazing. And I gotta say, DeFran, Carpe, both looking to propel their teams to a perfect 2-0 opening week. And boy, was this a brawl. For every punch the Fusion threw, the Reign had a counter punch, and they came to show everyone they are a force to be reckoned with in this league.
You know what? I was super happy to see Erster in there as a diva. What a great thing for this team to have Erster being able to flex from a DPS hero onto a diva and so forth. That really opens up a lot of possibilities for the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah, I have to say though, like, what happens to Philadelphia if Carpe leaves this team? Because how many game 5s is he going to just mega clutch out for them? It's ridiculous.
But they still have EQO, so they're still EQO. But it would be rougher, for sure.
And I felt like EQO's contribution was, it kind of went under the radar because he was playing Vegeta. Sometimes that happens, but he was actually very effective.
Yo, what was on that stat card at the end?
98% kill participation as Brigitte.
Wow.
That's what he had in one of those maps, and that's actually insane. I don't even know how that's called. I've never seen that number on a stat card, ever.
This match had everything, right? There's your Reaper there for a second, a moment ago. And then, of course, Poco had some Poco bombs. DeFran on the other side. Atlanta had some good plays. And I like the way that Atlanta kind of threw in 3 DPS players at times, like for the first control map. They really were kind of experimenting. And I think we kind of got to see, even though they lost, some of the flexibility that this team has.
Yeah, did that perplex you guys as much as it perplexed me? Because I was kind of like, what is this lineup, you know?
It depends on the composition they want to run, right? I mean, that's the whole thing with Overwatch right now. Like, in this meta, you need DPS players that can also play off tanks. Like, you really need those flex players to be flex players in the most literal sense.
Yeah, there's really a lot more asked.
But in the game.
Right, and that map 5 at Helios has to go
Torb
be one
again,
for the history
Torb
books.
again though. DeFran went Torb again in this series, so it wasn't just a fluke. He wasn't just like experimenting with it. Like, that is a serious strat they're pursuing, and that was great to watch.
Well, a lot of people were saying, you know, he was playing against the Florida Mayhem, so the Torb was kind of a troll pick, but that's an actual strategy that they use to win.
I mean, if anybody's going to be winning games with Torb, it's going to be DeFran, right?
I fundamentally disagree that it was a troll pick because no one comes out as an inaugural, like a new team, in their first point of their first map and picks Torb to troll the Florida man. That is a ridiculous statement.
I don't want to believe anybody is that cocky to do something like that.
Exactly.
Right?
It's legit. It was a prepared strat.
It's legit.
Right. It was a legit strat. You know, though they didn't get the win, you got to give all the respect to the Atlanta Reign. They came to play. That game could have literally gone either way.
That's why I'm not mad that I messed up the prediction there. Like,
you have faith in them, and rightfully so.
And I will continue to do so,
It was good, guys. But the Houston Outlaws and the Boston Uprising would both enter their match today looking for their first win of the season. And it was the Green Wall versus the boys in blue. Both looking to avoid going winless in week 1. Both came out equally as hungry, and it showed. This is another game that went to map 5 and another game that could have gone either way.
Yeah, but here's the thing, like,
What do you guys say?
Boston again coming in with fusions a few days before the start of the season. Axiom off-rolling. Color Hex, one of their DPS players on suspension. And even under those circumstances, the Houston Outlaws, who should be very good on control maps where they can run multiple DPS, are still losing. That's a problem. That is a big problem. And sure, credit to the Boston Uprising. I give Huck mad props for what he's been able to do in finding talent, but that's unacceptable from Houston.
To be fair, Note popped off today. He really
did?
He really did.
Note
has some good reads.
Note must have killed Raucus like nearly a dozen times. Like he was just looking for him, finding him, hunting him down. And yeah, I think if you're a Boston fan, you can't be nothing but extremely pleased with how your team's performed, despite what you said, missing a player, having some people do off rolls. It's been, looking really good.
I do want to shine another light on Boink, because I feel like he had another solid game. There was a lot of times where he was able to get behind Fusions and knock him out of position, but they just could not follow up, and that was a huge problem. That's something they should definitely look at in the game tape and work on.
Yeah, but here's the thing. As a Houston Outlaws fans, this is not a bad start. This was week 1, and they managed to go to map 5, and map differentials will count at the end of the season. So they haven't had a bad score after week 1.
I kind of feel like in a lot of their wins, though, they've been like super hard carried by Dante so far, especially on his Sombra.
He was amazing.
But could they pick him up then?
They're going to need, yeah, Dante
about?
was a great pickup. They're going to need more than Dante if they want to win some matches.
Yeah, I mean, if they're losing to a low synergy Boston, then what are they going to do later in the season would be my counter argument.
It is worrying, and some fans got upset with me when I said that, Fusions was going to beat Muma in the Reinhardt mirror, and I'm not saying that Muma's like a terrible tank or anything. I think he's a better Orisa. I think he's definitely the better Winston. But in the Reinhardt matchup, which is what really seems to matter the most in this meta, Fusion's definitely had the edge in this match.
I think for all of us, we just know the potential of the Houston Outlaws. So it's a little disappointing to see them not get the W's. That said, they did take each game to map 5. They did take it to the distance. So maybe next week they'll correct those mistakes that they made, and we'll see, a win from the boys from H-Town. But guys, with the rise of the 3-tank, 3-support meta, the importance of Zarya's Graviton Surge has never been higher. But that also means that having fast reflexes on D.Va to counter and win a team fight is just as important. Did you see it? All right.
I never see it.
All right, don't blink. Here's another one. Did you see it? You didn't see it, probably not. I told you not to blink. Monty, what exactly does it mean to eat a grab?
So it means to eliminate the ultimate with D.Va's defensive matrix ability. And it is super important in this meta because so many of the fundamental combos of triple tank, triple support, whether it's a self-destruct coming in, whether it's a Reinhardt swinging his hammer, whether it's going to be a high-charge Zarya dropping right clicks into a massive clustered people, that's what defines a lot of these team fights. So it is incredibly important to get that Graviton Surge out of the way. And we're going to take a look at something Reinforced cooked up for me right here, which is just showing here on the outside that Coolmat is positioned in a way where his defensive matrix is perpendicular to the Zarya for Axiom from the Boston Uprising. And this means that he can cover a long distance on the side to make sure that that Graviton is going to get eaten right at the source, which it does right there. So you can see a lot of off angles, a lot of perpendicular play for the D.Va is necessary because it means you can cover the most distance on that grab. And sometimes it can be accidental. You may not be meaning to do it, which happens more frequently than I think teams would like to admit. But in that case, it can be deliberate. And it's all about taking care of those ultimate cooldowns and making sure you know when that grab is up.
Right. For anybody who watches sports ball, it's like an interception. Kind of like that.
There you go.
So a good way to compare it. All right, guys, coming up, we'll take a look at what we learned from the first week of action. And of course, we've got our top moments of the day. Don't go anywhere. This is the Watchpoint Post-Show.
The Overwatch League is powered by Intel. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7. And by Omen by HP, the official PC and display of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back to the Watchpoint Post Show. It's time now to give props to the most memorable moments of the day. And we're going to start off with one of my favorites, another Poco bomb.
Oh, I love it.
This one a 3K. What'd you guys think about that?
He's back. Poco bombs are back.
Doesn't feel like Overwatch League without him.
It's true.
There was never a more perfect meta for Poco Bombs than this one either, so I
Fair
think we'll
enough,
probably
yeah.
be seeing quite a few of them.
Now the league can begin.
All right, also we have his AKM triple headshot. AKM showing what he can do, click heads.
I loved every second about this overtime.
It was just such a well-designed push from them, right? I mean, they responded so perfectly to what they were running into, to what Sol had, and they executed it even better.
Just switch from Unco onto the Roadhog there was beautiful. Great round overall.
Right, Joe McKell hanging out with the Gladiators fans, showing his glad pride, even leading the chant during our interview, or, you know, trying to lead the chant. You know, it takes a lot more energy. Hydration Man probably should have taught him how to do this, to be honest with you.
I feel kind of bad. I've never seen any of his work.
I don't even know who he is.
I don't, sorry. I stopped watching TV when I moved to Korea.
Oh, and there was this play in deep space, some zero gravity play.
In space.
I always enjoy plays that happen here at Lunar Colony. And I thought a couple of those guys were gone, and they completely flipped it on his head.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of people have been flying out into oblivion these days, but that's the thing. You can't charge it deep out there. Oh, hey, whoa, look at this.
The return of Bringy.
He's back.
He's back.
Hooray.
Oh, man. I don't know if I'm ready for this, man.
Honestly, like this here, next scene, like him kicking the suitcase, that was so unnecessary.
Well, you didn't see
That
where
was
the
so
immigration officer's
unnecessary.
waiting for him just off stage.
Oh, okay, I wonder what's in that suitcase, to be honest.
Look, he almost tackled me when he ran onto stage. I'm like,
He
yo,
actually
relax, bro.
tackled me.
Yeah, I know, man. He almost knocked me over. Go, guys, let's take a look at where our teams stand after the first week of the season. The Fusion are at the top of the pack, sitting at 2-0. They're also tied with the Spark and Excelsior at 2-0 with a 3+ map differential. Looking good. And then, as you can see, our top 10 teams, a lot of new expansion teams sitting in the top 10. Very unexpected for me. Well, what about you guys? What do you think?
It's a great showing for the expansion teams. Yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see, right? I mean, some people are kind of worried about like how much talent is out there really in the Overwatch universe when we were looking at the signings last year. And as the teams came together, it's kind of like, well, is this squad going to work together? And it turns out, I think we've got a lot of new good teams in the league.
New good teams indeed. Well, guys, with the first week in the books, we're now able to look at the action with a little bit of perspective. It's time now for Hindsight.
All right, guess I'm starting this off.
Beautiful graphic.
Yeah, I love graphics. Graphics are my jam. You know what's also my jam? Philadelphia Fusions. And I've been betting against them all week. I admit it. I did look at numbers more than anything. But Fusion, I will not disappoint you next week. I got your back this time. I have to trust you.
There you go. All right. Well, for me, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't see more out of Florida. And I know they only played one game, so we can't read too much into it yet. But it looked really, really rough. I'm like saying really, really rough. And with the roster on paper, you would have expected a little bit more from them. They've got Hagyapun now. They've got Chris, who is one of my favorite Lucios out of Korea back when we did Apex back in the day. They got BQB, who's a very talented player, again, on paper. So we should be seeing more out of this roster, and I'm a little bit surprised that they kind of rolled over as easily as they did.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, I think that this is proof that we shouldn't have underestimated a lot of the teams and players that were coming in from contenders. A lot of these players have been playing a 3-3 meta for a long time. They're going to be more prepared with the subtleties of these compositions coming in, and especially a lot of these expansion teams that picked up contenders players are looking like some of the strongest teams in the Overwatch League. Can't wait to see more in Vancouver.
I never underestimated contenders players at all. Well, guys, that's going to be all for us. It's been an amazing first week of matches. Thanks to everyone for joining us each night on the Post Show. And don't forget the live Q&A with Fleta from the Seoul Dynasty is coming up next, only with Overwatch League All Access Pass on Twitch. We'll see you again on Thursday.